Okay, hello and good morning, everyone. Welcome to JFD Brokers Traders Espresso with me, Darius and Anucauskas. Today is the 22nd of November 2018. So welcome everyone, welcome to this Thursday's morning session where we're going to have a look at the markets, a few of the charts. But as always, before we start looking at that, let's quickly have a read through our risk disclaimers. So the content we produce does not constitute investment advice or investment recommendation, should not be considered as such, and does not in any way constitute an invitation to acquire any financial instrument or product. As always, a few seconds for you to read the rest and we can continue. Okay guys, so now then, let's jump into the charts. Let me just quickly refresh my system here a little bit, but yep. So the first one I want to touch on is, of course, Nikkei. Now Nikkei here. Looking at this one, of course, we had this upside, this kind of long-term upside support line running here from around the 8th of September 2017. You can see that the index kind of continued to bounce around it, and to be honest, kind of broke it a few times. So in a way, we probably can start saying that this is becoming a little bit irrelevant. So we do have the slightly more shorter term one, or should I say the medium term upside support line here that's running from the 26th of March, a much steeper one. You can see that we continue to trade below that, but also in a way what you can draw here now is this little short-term downside resistance line. So you can see that it's kind of also showing the direction right now where the index is heading. We're still below that line as well. The index, of course, had this sell-off as well, together with the other equity markets, but kind of didn't reach, like the other indices, didn't reach its October's lows. So this, in a way, kind of gives us some hope for the bulls. So in a way, where we're going to keep an eye on here is if we're going to get a nice pop here above this downside, this short-term downside resistance line, and eventually if we're going to get a nice close above this little area around here, around the 21,920 zone, something like that. This, in a way, we could then target higher levels, of course, initially aiming for the 22,310, or even going slightly higher here towards the high of the 8th of November, which was approximately around the 22,585 zone. Now, this could be a nice touch. Certainly, if this would happen, I mean, this is where the price could stall just for a little bit. So if, let's say, if the price is going to continue being held here, and from there we'll see maybe the bears jumping in back in here into the action. We could, of course, we could see this one traveling back down. So in a way, what I'm leading here is towards what I'm leading here to is we might get a range here, so don't exclude that. So we could see this range here between the 20,972 area and on the downside, and on the upside the 22,585. Quite a wide range, but nevertheless something for you guys to keep an eye on, if of course this area is going to continue to hold the price down. If it doesn't, then I mean, this could confirm a forthcoming higher high since this reversal of in the end of October. We could see this one traveling a little bit higher, maybe even testing this medium-term upside support line from underneath. So for now, keep your eyes on that one. If, of course, this little short-term downside resistance line holds, and we see the bears kind of taking advantage of this area here and pushing the index back down, well, for us here, we're going to take a more conservative approach here. We're going to wait until, or should I say, if this travels back down and breaks the 20,972, only then we'll start considering much lower levels like the 20,345 zone, so which was marked here by the low of the 26th of March. So keep your eyes on that one. Looking at another index, and that's DXY. Now, DXY, looking at this daily chart, you can see that we had a nice run here on Monday, but then yesterday kind of retraced back down here, and today's candle is already kind of in the negative zone. Certainly the day is just started, but still, nevertheless, kind of keep your eyes on this one, keep your eyes on this short-term upside support line. Let me just jump into the 4-hour chart on this one just to kind of show you what's happening here. So in a way, we do have this, like I said, we do have this short-term upside support line. It's a bit of a, some could say maybe it's a bit of a tentative one, because it got broken here around around Monday time. So but what's interesting here, guys, is if looking at this 4-hour chart, and this is what the daily chart is not kind of showing us. So in a way, we could see something like a pennant here forming. So for now, keep your eyes on that one, because we do have a nice pull, and we could see potentially a reversal here back to the upside. Maybe it would come all the way down here to test the upside support line again. If it struggles to kind of overcome it to the downside here, we could see a reversal and then move and a push back up here. Now, of course, this is just an idea of the pennant is just an idea here. We still need a good confirmation of we need to see a nice good pop here higher. Certainly what you could start looking at, of course, for those who are more adventurous, let's say, you could start looking at the possibility of seeing this one here and a move above the 96.80 zone, something like that. But for those who are more slightly on the more cautious side, we do have a little bit higher level, which is probably more important here, the 96.90 level. Now this is the one we're going to keep an eye on. Let me just kind of mark this quickly for our future reference. So the 96.90, this is what we're going to keep a close eye on, because a nice good break above this could potentially confirm a higher high here. Since this reversal on Monday, we could see this one potentially traveling higher. So we do have some good areas of resistance, potential areas of resistance, of course, around the 97.20, or even actually going a little bit higher here. Now we could in a way start looking at the highs that we saw here around the 12th of November, and that was approximately around the 97.70 zone. So in a way, like I said, for now, even though it is retracing a little bit lower, still we do have some good areas of support here, especially this upside support line, this medium short term, I would probably say now, this short term upside support line. This could in a way come into action, and we could see maybe a rebound here from here and a push higher. But like I said, we'll take a more conservative approach here and a very more cautious approach here, and wait until, let's say, this gets above the 96.90. On the downside here, even if it drops below the below this upside support line, for a better confirmation of a potential move lower, we would need to see a nice good drop here below the 96.10 area, approximately there, and then we'll probably consider lower levels like the 95.75, which was marked here by the low of the 7th of November. Jumping into a few pairs, USDCHF. So USDCHF here, looking at this 4-hour chart, you can see it's kind of stalled here a little bit between the two lines here, between the 0.9916 and the 0.9960. So the 60 level continues to be quite an important one to watch, because it's kind of struggling, the pair is struggling to overcome this. So that's why we're going to highlight this one quickly for our future reference. And if we do get a nice pop here above this level, then we could see maybe further acceleration to the upside. The only issue here is the 200 EMA that we've got here shown as the black line, and in a way it could stall the rate a little bit. But if this continues to push further up here, and we start breaking the 0.9985 level, now this could become quite interesting for the bulls, because this could open the horizon of higher levels that were last tested in the beginning of November. So we could get back towards the psychological 1 level again, or even above that. But again, for such a scenario, we would need to see a nice good pop above the 0.9960 level. On the downside, as you can see by the arrow here, waiting for that break below the 0.9916 or 15, in a way you could put that. or even for those who are more on the cautious side. I mean, I had this line here, but you could in a way drag it all the way here towards the lows, the lowest point here that we had around Monday time here near the 0.99 level itself. So a nice good drop below the 0.99 level could potentially open the path towards the 0.9850 or even actually lower. But for now, of course, let's not over speculate too much here, and let's continue monitoring these two levels. So Euro USD, I talked about this one yesterday. I was telling you guys that it's kind of coiling up here. I mean, it's getting squeezed slightly. You can see it continues to respect the short-term upside support line taken from the low of the 13th of November. The only issues here is also struggling with the upside here. So in a way, we should be very cautious here. We could see maybe a break here below this short-term upside support line, and if we do see that, still we're going to be very careful here, and probably in order to start considering lower levels, we would need to see a nice good drop below the 113.55 area, and only then we'll kind of consider, like I said, like I mentioned before, consider much lower levels. Certainly the 113 will be the one to watch again, but for now, like you see, that kind of still remains above the short-term upside support line. For the upside here, if we get a nice pop here above this downside resistance line here taken from the peak of the 16th of October, and we start breaking the 200 EMA, which also coincides with this quite important area of resistance around the 114.25 zone. Now this kind of let me just quickly mark that on the chart here. So the 114.25 could be that gateway towards higher levels, or at least, let's say, at least towards the 114.60. So if the 114.60 gets broken, now this could travel all the way higher here towards the 115 zone. So keep your eyes on that one. But for today, probably the most important level to watch will be the 114.25 on the upside, and on the downside, of course, this short-term upside support line and the 113.55 level. Jumping into EURGBP. Continues to grind higher. Right, so this one, well, it continues to travel higher. Certainly it's a bit of a tricky one here. Excuse me. It's a bit of a tricky one here, even though it seems that it wants to continue pushing higher. Still, it's kind of struggling here to overcome certain areas here, certain resistance areas. But you can see we do have a nice potential area of resistance here near the 0.8940, or just slightly above that, 0.8946. So in a way, for those who are very careful with such pairs and with just trading in general, you could in a way wait until, let's say, this gets a nice good move here above these two levels, and then consider a possible move higher, at least towards the 0.8985, or you can in a way round it up towards the psychological 0.90 level. So this area here could be that gateway towards higher levels. Let me just quickly mark that for our future reference here. So yep, you could in a way start looking at that, because at this point here, I mean, it seems that it wants to travel higher, but keeps finding reasons not to. So on the downside here, we do have this little very short-term upside support line here. Now, in a way, you could keep an eye on it. It's a bit of a tentative one, to be honest, but nevertheless, if we do get a break here below this line, certainly not all is lost for the bulls. But if this travels back down below the 0.8880 area, now this is where the alarm bells could start being hit by the bulls. Of course, we could see the bears jumping in here, at least potentially driving this one towards the 0.8850. But if that doesn't hold, further declines could be possible. I do have an arrow here drawn towards this 0.88 level, but of course that's a bit of a long shot here from where it is right now, but nevertheless, keep your eyes on it. And the reason why I'm saying that keep your eyes on the 0.8880, not from here, not from the break of this tentative upside support line, because we could start forming like a range here, something as well. So you can see that the 0.8880 kind of also plays as a nice important area of support. So yep, we watch out for that one. And the last pair I wanted to quickly touch on, that's GBPCAD. Certainly very interesting pair. Looking at the bigger picture here, excuse me, looking at the bigger picture here, we can see that it's kind of stuck here in a range here, something like that, because we do have the good strong resistance area here on the upside at 1.7285. We can see that the pair got held a few times here already, from which it kind of sold off. You can see this nice sell-off here that we had on the 15th of November, so last week. Now we can see that the pair continued to climb higher and up until yesterday, and then sold off here. So in a way, what we could see here is if we draw a nice, very short-term, very tentative upside support line here, we could see potentially another leg of selling here, and you can also see that the level here, the 1.6925, kind of continues to hold the pair down. And what we could see here, maybe if like a little bit of a decline here towards this upside support line. This would be our first target around this area, but for further declines, for let's say slightly more near-term declines, or let's say to see such a scenario, we would need to see a nice good drop here below the 168 level, approximately there. And then we could consider levels like the 167.20, or even actually going all the way here much lower. So, but for now, let's not get ahead of ourselves too much. Let's see how this level here, the 169.25, if it continues to hold, and then if we see a nice drop here below this little area. Let me just quickly put that on the chart. Below this little area here at around 168.85. A nice good drop below that could signal, like I said, further declines here, where we could then maybe capture a few pips here until it reaches the this short-term upside support line. On the upside here, well, I mean, probably we'll wait until this kind of gets back towards the 170.35 here, marked near the peak of yesterday, and then we'll consider much higher levels like the 170.95, or even actually going higher. So for now, be very cautious, but to be honest, this is looking more bearish than bullish. Okay guys, thank you very much for watching and listening, and I hope you found it useful. And if you want to join me later on in my Traders Tea Time, and that's 14:15 GMT time, so yep, feel free to join in, and we'll have a look at some other charts. So have a nice and wonderful day. Bye bye.